everybody, it is Steve, your friendly neighborhood lawn gnome. Welcome back to another video over here on That's Comical. And if you're watching and it happens to be a Wednesday, happy new comic book day. And if you're curious if this is actually another recording on the same day as the previous episode of The Ultimate Journey that you watched, the answer is yes. We are recording back to back today just because of the fact that we can. That's just what we're doing here. But we are now officially back, me and Andy, and we are going back to the road to Blackest Night over on the DC side of the Ultimate Journey. So, Andy, from what we have gathered from conversations that we have, because we don't save our thoughts entirely until we hit the record button, we do talk a little bit
Yeah.
beforehand. Based on what I have heard from you, sir, I think you are very much excited for this recording.
Yeah, no, I was really excited to keep going deeper. You know, our last conversation on this side of things was Legacy, which was an unexpected hit for me. So I was really excited to turn back to the character.
Yeah. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be discussing a collected story that takes place in Green Lantern, and it's a couple of issues that go all the way to a landmark 150th issue of the second volume. And at this time, we actually have a different writer and artist on the book. Ron Mars actually took a bit of a hiatus on the Green Lantern run, and granted, he had done an absolutely amazing job bringing Kyle Rayner to light and giving us some really great stories about him. But at this point in time, we have the creative team of Judd Winnick and the great Dale Eaglesham doing the artwork for Green Lantern at this point in time. And we start this story called The Power of Ion, and it harkens back to the events of Final Night, where Kyle is apparently gathering energy in the sun and is also standing off with another person who is trying to get the power for himself. And what is in the sun? Apparently, it's power of the Green Lantern in there. And Kyle is up there trying to obtain it and control it and take it away from the demigod mischief maker Nero.
Mhm, mhm. So Steve, let me just ask you real quick because I ended up, and I know I mentioned this to you, these stories are annoyingly difficult to get your hands on.
Yeah.
They, as far as I can tell, don't have an official digital release. And it was not bound up in a trade paperback in many years. So I ended up grabbing a secondhand trade off of eBay so that I could actually have something to hold in my hand. But similar to our last conversation, which for us is very recent, if not for anyone who's watching this, I read a little bit more and read the what's it called? The X-Men part of Ultimatum Requiem. For this, I read a little bit more as well.
Yeah, I
This
believe
trade,
the Power of Ion books, and I'm sorry for
yeah,
interrupting you, starts with issue number 142, where my journey on this specific story starts with issue 144.
yeah,
And
and
the
that's right. That's totally fine. I read 142 and 143 also, but I'll add that's like an additional extra thing if you want the road to Blackest Night, right? You don't need those two issues, but they're
that
included in
makes
this
me
bind-up.
happy.
Yeah,
I
you
was
don't need
curious to
them.
know if those two issues were really that significant, because it was really funny, because when I was hunting down these issues and trying to get the complete story of this specific point in the Green Lantern lore, I was saying to myself, well, what are issues 142 and 143? Are they significant? Are they insignificant? And every blurb that I read basically made me feel that there was no connection to the Ion story whatsoever, and that it actually truly begins with issue 144.
Yeah, it basically does.
Unless you really want to know how Kyle Rayner goes into the sun, I guess.
Unless you really want to know how Kyle Rayner goes into the sun and see Nero for a few seconds before like the story itself kicks off, but you miss nothing with the story of Power of Ion. You just see a couple people get to where they are as Power of Ion starts. It's really not important.
Mm-hmm. So basically, the if I'm going to be perfectly honest with you, out of the whole story, this first installment is the most meaningless one to me. I don't really care about Nero. I will say that he probably had a much more entertaining role in Day of Judgment back
Hmm.
previously in our Ultimate Journey discussion to Blackest Night. But the end of this part is really where you need to start yourself off in regards to this journey, because Kyle comes back from the sun with the powers of all these Green Lanterns and all of this knowledge, and he comes back as an extremely different being, and he calls himself the Ion.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, and you see a lot of fun character stuff happen to get there. I mean, the fight with Nero is very cool. Getting to see Kyle interact with, or not Kyle specifically, but getting to see Alan's take on Kyle is really interesting. And we have the appearance of Hal Jordan Specter at this point before he returns to Earth with the power. Hal is really the one who kind of says to Kyle that he's got a choice here in taking all of these new powers onto his own. He can, you know, take the red pill, right, and grab all these powers, or he could go back to a time before he ever decided to become the Green Lantern, which is a fun and important thing for later on in the story that a choice was offered here that Hal was involved in. But largely, the fun of it and what's going to start to matter for us is when Kyle gets back to Earth and has these. They draw it out and fill you with awe, but these godlike powers. Like he has
Yeah,
this truly, above Omega level power, being able to be seemingly everywhere all at once.
exactly. That
Yeah.
see that's the part that makes those couple of issues so interesting. Another very interesting thing about his story is the fact that he actually has found love in Alan Scott's daughter Jade.
Yeah.
And I think that that's a really nice touch, because she is, especially if you are a new JSA fan, she is a crucial character. And I love the relationship that they have, even though, you know, the reason why I will never look at refrigerators the same way again. I mean, she was his first love, and
Mhm.
it's weird when you have to move on from something that horrific. But Jade is definitely the right person to be with Kyle at this very moment, because he needs that person to bring him back down to earth. And that's exactly what she does, because you don't. That's the thing I love so much about him being Ion. He basically is a god,
Mhm. Mhm.
and you don't see what he's doing. You are described what you're seeing in a monologue, in an inner
Mhm.
monologue of Kyle. And it's
Of him
brilliantly
lying
done.
awake in bed and
Yeah,
realizing he doesn't need the sleep anymore, and you just see him with this you know very, very interesting emotion on his face. It's kind of difficult to get a read on all the levels of it. One of them is admittedly aloofness, which is really interesting and goes into why maybe these powers aren't all they're cracked up to be. But he's just lying in bed, saving the universe hundreds of times over, just lying there.
yeah,
Um,
it's
yeah,
crazy.
it's insane the power that he gets in this story.
Exactly. And then there are a couple of things that he does in regards to using those powers. And sometimes he gets the results that he wants, and sometimes he doesn't get the results he wants, because there's a really powerful issue where he actually helps John Stewart walk again.
Hmm.
And through Kyle, he unfortunately has to unlock a memory that he had tried to block for many years, which apparently was also the key to giving him back his legs.
Hmm.
And the fact that he actually has to go to that place again, he happy that he gets to walk again? Sure, but is he happy that he had to go back into his head and reach that memory, and it was the fact that Kyle actually gave him the reasoning to go back and unlock that memory? He's not really 100% thrilled, and to a certain degree Kyle is sort of regretful about the fact that even though he believes he did a good thing, is it really a good deed that he did? And that's also what makes him having these powers so interesting, because even though he's using these powers for absolute good, I mean, the greatest deeds a hero could ever do, he's not finding the gratitude that he would expect from anybody after these deeds are done.
Mhm.
And that's
And
what makes it interesting.
primarily from Superman. And
Oh,
you
let's save that. Let's put a pin in that and save that one for its own
fair enough,
discussion.
but I do want to just for the sake of this story, because we're going to be calling back to it, you mentioned with John, and being able to plumb his memories and being able to walk again. It is important to note that Kyle is, very, very clear about this. He didn't do that. He has power, he can do nearly everything, but it was entirely up to John to be able to find it within
Exactly.
himself to clear that and walk again. So it's an important example of the people saving themselves, that Kyle can merely open a door and it would not be possible or meaningful for him to solve everything for everybody. So we point that out now because that's important.
Very much so. Very much so. So, yeah, the deeds and the actions that Kyle has been doing for these last couple days, and that's the other interesting thing. He doesn't actually have these powers for that long. He really just
No.
has them for a couple of days, which shows you the kind of person that Kyle really is. But it's really the moment where he has the very heated discussion with the big guy.
Mhm.
He goes to the Watchtower because he is still a member of the Justice League and is hanging out with the Justice League. And he's basically being observed as if he has literally just put the Justice League out of business.
Yeah, yeah.
It's a very interesting concept to think about.
When we have that gigantic invasion that is stopped entirely by Kyle while they're still talking about how to respond to it
Yep.
is just insane. And it's more than anyone, I wonder what Batman is thinking in the room at that time. More than anyone else in the room, Batman, what is Batman's plan that he just came up
I'll
with for
tell you one
Kyle?
thing. If I were to go into Batman's head, I'm pretty sure he's pissed because he doesn't want to spend every single day for the rest of his life playing golf.
Yep, yep.
But yeah, so Superman basically brings Kyle aside to have a talk with him. And the talk is a very interesting thing. And I think the part that is the most entertaining is how Kyle literally stands up to Clark. That's
Mhm.
the best part. He literally stands up to Clark. Nobody has the gall to do that, but Kyle does. And he basically says to him, is this just a matter of petty jealousy? Are you jealous of the fact that I am more powerful than you and can do all of these things and you don't have to? But I think the best part about it is the fact that Superman literally tells him to sit down and really puts him in his place,
Yeah, yeah,
because he tells him it's not jealousy, it's something else.
yeah, yeah. It's completely different. He talks and Kyle tries to say, like, you've done all these things. You have all these great powers. There are people who worship you. And Clark is like, well, it's different. I've been doing this for years and years and years, not encouraging this. And as we just said, it's easy to forget. Kyle's had these powers for days, and he's getting this adoration from people. And I think what makes this, we see that following this conversation, Kyle goes and sees a local fire department saving a family from a burning building, right? And it's in that moment that everything Superman said starts to click with him. But for me, as a reader, harkening back to what we were just talking about, I think that John walking again is the big example of this that should really land with Kyle. And if I have one issue with the structure of this story, it's probably that I'd rather John come to the door having walked for the first time following that confrontation with Clark as the key example of people need to be able to save themselves so they can be seen to be living. Because were it were it for Kyle's intervention in this world, if you take it to the extreme, what Clark is saying would be a mistake. If he then creates this existence where he solves every problem as they happen, there's no strife, there's no nothing, no one needs to lift a finger other than Kyle, you will create a world where John would never walk, because no one knows how to live life for themselves. So I really like this story, but like that's there, but they like didn't trust it with the burning building thing with the structure. Anyway, I pointed out just because I think it might more elegantly underscore why he has to give up the powers, which he has only had for a couple of days.
Mhm. Exactly. I mean, he basically, what Superman basically tells him is the fact that, yes, you are doing all the right things, but you're not realizing that you're protecting people to the point where you're not letting them live.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
that's not the right thing to do. And
exactly.
that's the truth. Superman knows that all he wants to do is be the hero. He wants to save everybody, but he knows he can't. And
Mhm.
because of the fact that he can't, he puts his faith in the human race, believing that other heroes will rise and do the right things that he cannot do. And
Mhm.
that's what sets him apart from
Mhm.
Kyle and that discussion. And like you said, going to visit seeing the firefighters doing the rescue, that's where it officially hits home and he realizes I've been going about this all wrong.
Yeah, yeah,
It's not that I have to stop being a hero, but I need to let other heroes fight alongside me and do what's
yeah,
right.
yeah. And the value of that community and what Clark sees as the ability for there to be a team, right, is really what comes through in what Kyle then does.
Yep. And then he decides, well, clearly, if this power, he still feels at the end of the day that he needs to do something important with this power. He knows that he's been given a blessing. This is the powers of many Green Lanterns, Hal Jordan included. He's carrying a heavy burden. So he has to figure out, if I'm going to give up these powers, I can't just give them up. These powers need to do some good. And
Hmm.
if they're going to do some good, it's got to be some good that matters, like Superman says. So he actually travels to Oa, where
Because he has
Ganthet,
read Green Lantern Legacy and knows that Oa has returned.
yes, just in case you guys haven't read, Oa is back thanks to the power of the Green Lantern. And Ganthet is also there. Don't know how he got there, but I know that Ganthet and Kilowog are there. We know why Kilowog is there, but I don't remember how Ganthet got there. But long and short of it is, Oa's back, and Ganthet is lonely. Ganthet is lonely because of the fact that he, even though has his home back, he's lost everything because, you know, we've said this a long time ago. There aren't that many people who are big fans of the Guardians, but everybody loves Ganthet because Ganthet seems to be the only one that understands the idea of human emotions and is willing to give human beings a chance because he knows that they can be great things.
Mhm.
And Kyle comes to Oa and says, this power will give you what you've been searching for. And he feeds the ion powers to the Green Lantern battery, and out pop Guardian children. He has officially brought back the Guardians, which is why this story is extremely crucial to the road to Blackest Night. And it's a very fun, lighthearted moment. Ganthet literally cries because he's got his family back. And Kyle basically says, this is not the end. It's time to rebuild the core. We have to bring the core back because I can't fight this fight alone. We need more here. We need heroes.
This story makes me so excited to read Blackest Night. This one, this one in particular is really starting to hit me with just how excited I am to get back to that stage. Obviously, we got a while to go still, but to focus in on the moment, it is fun. It is lighthearted. It's great to get to see the payoff of the legacy story that we've read to kind of have it come full circle so that as we read stories from here out, without this backing, we understand why everything is back, if not status quo. We've got our, Muppet Babies spin-off version of the Guardians. But to look back on it, to talk about the story as a whole, because I really did enjoy this book quite a bit. I think that one of my favorite things about comics is when, in an enjoyable superhero story that works on the level of here's what's going on with these characters, here's what's happening, let's try to save the world. What will we do with this? How will the characters we love grow? I really love that there's a theme that's really artfully explored here about the nature of power and the responsibility of power. Honestly, I think that what Judd Winnick is doing here is a pretty nice defense of a kind of omnipotent God, if he wanted to. And I love, whatever that means or doesn't mean to you. I love when something like that can be tackled in the medium of comics. It goes to show how much we can do with this and how great these stories can be and why they're worth reading. So we did a really great job going over kind of the narrative of this, and we'll
Yeah.
talk a little more and where it's going to take us and why we read this one and all of that. But I did want to take a second to stop and say, beyond all of that, there's this other thing I loved about this story, that I think was really, really well done. And it's a shame that I needed to get a trade that I think was printed about 15 years ago to read it, that there's not a good way for people
Well,
to access this.
you see, this is one of the few things that I'm glad you're bringing up because I've seen this in the comic book community. It's really hard to find paperbacks and bind ups focused on the Kyle Rayner story of Green Lantern. And it's such a
Yeah.
shame because when you take a look at the creators like Ron Mars and Judd Winnick bringing some amazing, because that's the thing about this, starting on the first appearance of Kyle with Green Lantern issue 50/51 all the way up to the final issues of this Green Lantern volume, which is issue 180. And I would definitely say read the final story arc of this Green Lantern volume. Ron Mars comes back reading the issues 176 to 180. It really caps off the Green Lantern story of Kyle Rayner beautifully because this is an entire journey of Kyle receiving responsibilities that he never thought he would ever receive, not even thinking that he was worthy of it. And through this time period, goes through so many trials to find himself as a person and find himself as a hero, only to literally get everything he could ever dream of to be a hero and realize that to be a true hero, you need to have the humanity in you. And the best part about the end of this story is what does he do? He goes over to Jade and he does a costume change. He has a brand new Green Lantern costume and he goes off being Green Lantern again. But that's number one, the fact that it's all it's sort of like a coming of age story of a hero, which is really nice. And also, it's such powerful storytelling based on the big picture that we're discussing here. I mean, this is the conclusion of our second story arc for the road to Blackest Night. After this, when we get into the third story arc, we're going right into the Geoff Johns Green Lantern run. We're getting into the really good stuff, guys. Not to say that any of this is bad, but I give so much credit to Ron Mars, Joe Kelly, Judd Winnick, all of these people that gave us these incredible stories about this brand new Green Lantern. And it's a really important chapter of the
Mhm.
Green Lantern lore. And I'm glad that we're doing this, Andy, because this really should not be overlooked. We need
Yeah.
to get these specific stories into the hands of people who love Green Lantern and don't know much about Kyle's story.
Yeah, yeah. No, and I mean this story in particular, and I read some additional Kyle Green Lantern comics along the way. This story in particular, I think, really goes to show what his strengths are in being Green Lantern for a writer to take advantage of. That younger Green Lantern, that able to make a mistake Green Lantern. Um, it really works, and this is a really good story that utilizes that because I don't think Power of Ion is Power of Ion with any of our other, known Green Lanterns taking the main seat of taking on that power of Ion, right?
Right.
So very happy to have read this
Yeah,
story.
I think this was the first time that we ever actually encountered the character of Ion. And just so everybody knows, this may not be the MCU, but Ion will return. So I think that that's going to wrap up this episode of Ultimate Journey. Andy, it's always a pleasure to talk to you. And I'm once again, something that we really don't, we talk more so off camera. I'm just glad that you're finally seeing what it is I love so much about the Green Lantern comics and the Green Lantern characters, because these are books that you are actually reading for the first time. And I'm
Yeah.
glad that you're really appreciating the storytelling.
Yeah, I really am. There's no getting into Green Lantern anymore. I'm a big Green Lantern fan at this point.
So thank you very much for watching, everybody. Leave a comment in the box below. Let us know if you've actually read these Green Lantern books. We'd love to talk to you. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and hit that notification bell so you're up to date with all of our latest content. We're looking forward to the next couple of Ultimate Journey episodes on the DC side and the Marvel side. So there's a lot of exciting stuff coming. But in the meantime, everybody, we will see you in the next one.